Okay. So, so as a child, Leonard Rogers, correct, had a life-changing NDE experience where he was able to see the future and uncovered a striking surprise. Leonard, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Haji.
I like to start with a quick breathing exercise to calm me down because I'm way too excited.
Okay.
And to get you ready, get you ready to
Okay.
share. So we're going to breathe in on the count of 7. We're going to count in our head. And we're going to breathe in all goodness, calm, love, positive energy. And then we're going to breathe out on the count of 8 and release any stress, anxiety, negativity. Just get rid of it.
I like
And we're
that.
going to, and
I
we're
like
going to
that.
do that. We're going to do it 3 times and we'll be ready, okay?
Okay.
All right, starting now. Okay.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
All
That's
right.
that's that's good. I like that.
Great. So let's just jump right into it and tell us your amazing near-death experience.
Oh, okay. Everything started when I was following an uncle. He he was going somewhere, and I decided I'm gonna follow him. So I basically followed him out the door. He didn't know it, of course. And before you know it, I'm I'm behind him on the sidewalk, and I'm trying to catch up with him. Well, I didn't manage to do so, but I thought I was making ground. Um, he actually got to the street, and it took me a few minutes later to get there. And by the time I did, he was across the street. So when I stepped off the curb, let's just say a lot of things opened up for me. A whole new world opened up for me. I stepped off the curb, and before you know it, there's a car coming. I of course didn't see it because something distracted me. Um, it was like something for an instant stopped in between me and the car, and just as quickly exited. Um, to this day, I don't know what that something might have been. I came up with the conclusion that the only thing that makes sense to me was that since time is not linear, that maybe what I saw was me, because as an adult I've went back to that same spot and just stopped and just just took everything in, and that may have well been me at the same spot as I was as a child, just being able to see it all. And not long after whatever it was exited, I could now see the car coming toward me in my peripheral vision. And as I'm turning to see the car, I didn't have time to do it before I was actually struck. And the car hit me pretty hard, but I don't think that's what actually facilitated the onset of death. I think it was my head hitting the concrete so hard. Because once my head hit, it was like everything was paused. My whole body was just like put on pause, but I could see. I couldn't move my eyes around. They were just like stuck, but I could see. And looking up, I could see that I was up under the car because I was looking directly at the bumper. And as I'm looking at this bumper, I'm basically thinking I'm fine, because I can see. I'm not really feeling any pain. So I actually tried to get up. I tried to make my body work. So as I'm trying to do that, I noticed I couldn't. It was like being trapped, and it felt uncomfortable. And I was really trying to make my body work. And as I'm trying to do this, I heard a voice tell me to let go. And when I heard that voice tell me to let go, it's like I stopped for a second and was like, hey, who was that? Although it sounded relatively familiar to me. Um, but hearing that voice also kind of startled me a little bit, which put a little bit of urgency into me really trying to make this body work. So I tried even harder to make my body work. So I was struggling and struggling. And it was, seemed to me, it was like it was physically demanding, just trying to make my body work. And it got to the point where I was so exhausted. And by the at the time I felt that exhaustion, I heard a voice tell me again to let go. And when I heard the second time, it was like, okay, well, you know what? I don't know what's coming next, and I really don't care at this point. But I'm too tired to keep fighting. So I actually just basically just released myself to whatever was going to happen. At the moment I did that, I felt a vibration, and this vibration started from my feet, and it worked its way all the way up my body. It was like woo, 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 woo. And when it got almost like it was all in unison, it stopped. And when it stopped, I literally felt the disconnection from my body. And now I was actually moving or floating. It was like I was actually gliding out of my body. And the next thing you know, as I glided away, now I'm able to see the whole scene from a third person perspective. I see buildings, I see the street, and the first thing that caught my attention was that the color of everything was like off. There was no longer any color. Everything looked like it was like the negatives of, excuse me. And as I'm observing all of this, um, I hear someone in my ear telling me to come to her. So when I looked up, I could see that there was someone on the opposite side of the intersection telling me to come to her. So I didn't even know how I was going to come to her. And my original thought when she asked me was, "No, I don't think I want to." It's like, didn't she just see me get hit? And I was like, "No, I don't think I want to do that. I think I'll get hit again." And the woman, it was a woman because she had long hair, and it was almost like she was blending in and out of the negative um, scene of everything. And so she told me that I would be okay, not to worry. So I said, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I didn't even know how to move. Um, but for, it seemed like I'm gliding again. And then when I started to move, I saw a speck of light just to the right of me. And it's like that light was attracting it. It was like it was a magnet almost, but it was so small. But it seemed like it got bigger. And as I'm focusing on the light, I saw a picture of me pop up. And in this picture, I'm about, I would say 9 to 10 years old, maybe 11. And when I first saw the picture, I was like, hey, I remember this moment. And I remember the other things that happened that day, So as I'm looking at that picture, I could see my brothers, and that's the ironic thing. I was only 3, but I'm looking at a picture of some of my brothers who weren't even born yet. And I'm remembering the moment, which would let me know that my mother, I knew at 3, my mother was going to have more children. And she probably hadn't even met the fathers. So as I'm watching this video, it goes by, and then another one comes up. And I'm remembering it and looking at it, and next thing you know, they start going violent. And as they're going by, it's almost like I was downloading everything that I could see, because it got to the point where it was going by too fast. It was like it was going by too fast and I couldn't process it or whatever. And it actually slowed down. Now, when it slowed down, it stopped on one picture. And as I'm looking at this picture, it was of a young man. He looked to be in his 20s, an adult, and he had his arms around a young lady. And as I'm looking at the picture, I had a hint of familiar. I've seen this picture. I know this picture. And when I focused on him, the thought came to me, son. Son. So I started focusing on him, and before you know it, it just hit me. My son. I I was like shocked. I'm like, what? This is my son. This is my son. So I was just, it was like, um, it was basically just shocking. That's the only way I could put it. It was just shocking. And I guess I had had enough of looking at that and the videos and images and or whatever they were. I now know that to be a life review. Apparently, we all will, have this when we pass on or whatever. I now know that to be a life preview. So it continued. And eventually it ended. Now when it ended, the first thing I remember is a little bit of exhaustion. It was almost like that was little bit of a workout too. But I remember stepping into a tunnel, and as I looked to my right, I could see that there were other people that had stepped into this tunnel too. So I deduced that they had just basically went through the same thing that I had went through. But when I looked forward, actually, before I looked forward, to my right, I felt a presence. Now, Haja, I will be honest with you. Um, I didn't want to look that direction. I felt like actually unworthy to look that direction. And when I refused to look that direction, now I'm looking straight. And to the right of me, I could see a huge eye. It was just a huge eye. And when I looked at it, it looked at me. And that eye, it was like it was in a place other than where I was. It was like I knew it couldn't affect me, but it still brought a little bit of fear. So with that fear, all of a sudden I felt a slight breeze. So Haja, it was like 1 or 2 miles an hour coming from my right, from the direction I didn't want to look. And when that breeze hit me, it's as if the word fear didn't make any sense to me at all. I knew at that moment I didn't have anything to fear in the universe. And at some point, I try to put it all in a linear perspective, but at some point during all of this, I was in a dark place. I don't know if this actually I think this happened before. The dark place happened right after I initially saw the light. Before I saw the light, I saw the dark place. And in this dark place, it seemed like I had been there before. It was completely dark. It was completely dark, but I didn't feel any fear or anything. But it was like I was just there just thinking. And within this darkness, I'd say it was like I was there for years and years just thinking. But at some point, my thought process changed. And when my thought process changed, I found myself in another place. But now I can see movement. I can actually see that there were other people or entities or individuals around me. Whereas before I could sense there were other people, but it was like I was focused completely on my thinking. And so as I'm in this other place, it's as if I know I could communicate. I knew I could communicate, and I don't recall communicating with vividly with anybody other than one person. And I now know that person to be Jesus. Um, I can describe to you what he looks like. What I mainly saw was his face appeared. His face appeared to me, and when his face appeared to me, um, I was focused on his eyes. Haja, his eyes, it's almost like they were hypnotizing. It was like if you could imagine a beauty so strong that you can feel it, like you can physically feel it. So as I'm looking at his eyes, they seem like the rays through the sun and the clouds. That's how it's like little small rays that surrounded his pupils, each one, and they had colors. And it's like they were moving. And as he looked at me, it's like he was looking through me. And I knew that there was nothing I could say or do that he didn't already know about. And we had a lengthy conversation. And but one of the things that kind of irritated me about the conversation was that I was told I wouldn't remember most of it, and that kind of irritated me. But he asked me why I wanted to go back. I I guess I didn't even realize I wanted to go back, but like I said, I guess he knew me better than me. And my original answer was I wanted to go help my mother raise my brothers. Um, which wasn't all the way true because I was thinking about a car that I was gonna have. I was gonna have this nice drop top. So I was thinking about my drop top. Oh, you can throw the brothers in there though. We can throw them in there. So he actually chuckled at that. He thought it was funny. And then he asked me what was the real reason. And I said, I want to leave the world a better place than I had. And after I said those words, I started moving in such speed. Um, I wouldn't even say with the speed of light. I would say with the speed of thought. Um, the speed was so fast. You know how you probably watched a cartoon before when they're moving, their hands are flying behind them. I was moving so fast it felt almost as if my hands should have been behind me. And before you know it, I'm back in front of a screen. Now I've seen this screen before. When I originally left my body and I was looking at the scene, I I noticed that there was my family members in the car and the person that hit me. And when I first saw it, I was looking at my family members and I was feeling their emotions as they were looking at something else. And as they were looking at the something else, I was wondering, why am I feeling these emotions from them? I mean, what's the problem? I'm fine. And I was directed to look at the thing on the ground. And when I focused on the thing on the ground, it was like, that? Are you kidding me? They're worried about that? I'm fine. Why are they worried about that? That absolutely made no sense to me. And it got so irritating, just the thought, to me, it was like being in a car accident that completely crushes the car. But I'm able to step out of the car, stand with my family members, but my family members are crying over the car. That's how ridiculous that was to me. And it got to the point I didn't even want to view it anymore. So that's when I originally left to the dark place and I was just thinking. Now, the second time after I had the conversation with Jesus, it's like I was holding hands. And this is the first time that I actually remember being close or talking to the person that actually called me to come to her. Because after she called me to come to her, I never talked to her or had any interaction with her because of the light and the videos and everything else. So after the conversation with Jesus, now I feel like I was holding hands with her. and we're watching the scene, and I'm like, wow, what am I doing back here? You know, because to me it seemed like it had been a long time. Haja, it seemed like it had been 40 or 50 years with me just there thinking. And I know that I'm fixing to get ready to go inside this screen. So as I'm looking at this screen and knowing I'm fixing to go back, the next thing you know, I'm tossed back into it. And the screen, entering the screen, it had the consistency of water, but it wasn't as fluid as water. I would say it was closer to the fluidity of Jello. So once I entered the screen, I'm moving and I'm hearing like chimes. It seemed like I'm going through like a tunnel that's swirling around, and next thing you know, as I'm hovering inside the bumper, looking down. And as I'm looking down, I'm kind of regretting because I know at any second I'm fixing to go inside this thing again. So I'm kind of regretting it, but I started thinking about, okay, well, will I be back? Will I be back? I had to know that because you got to think, Haja, I had just obviously seen the life I was going to live. I haven't been, a saint, but I haven't been a bad person. I just haven't been perfect, And I was wondering if I was going to be good enough to come back when I asked that question. So I asked the question, will I be back? And I originally didn't get an answer, and which made me even a little more hesitant to get inside that body because I had to know. So I was like holding myself back with my will. I was like, will I be back? Will I be back? And that's when I heard the word always. And after I heard that word always, next thing you know, I'm looking up at the bumper like nothing had happened. And it's at this point that the guy that hit me, he had taken me from up under the car and handed me to my mother. And when he handed me to my mother, all through all of this, I was not crying. I had no need to cry. I was perfectly fine over there. I was perfectly fine when I came back. But when he handed me to my mother, and she was checking me out, and she was kind of frantic, and I looked at her, and as I looked at her, and I'm like, well, why is she crying? I'm like, this mama. If mama's crying, then maybe I should be crying. I mean, what was that I just saw? And that's when I started crying for the first time. That was actually the first time I felt like, what was that? A little nervous. But that was pretty much the NDE as far as the other side goes. It's a whole nother animal on this side.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to start, but I guess I'll just start with
Well, I think what people, because you have a very interesting story, so it's kind of hard to even know where to begin, where to start. But what people don't realize is that this whole NDE experience was something that was kind of unleashed or like unlocked in your brain much later. So if you could start maybe explaining it from that vantage point and just skip over obviously what you just said, and then talk about the future.
I'll do that. I'll do that. But before I get there, let me say this. After coming back from the hospital, well, actually in the hospital, the doctors checked me out, and they were pretty much gonna let me go. But my grandmother, who was a real religious person, strong prayer, she said, "You will not be letting my grandson go home. He just got hit by a car, and you're not gonna let him go home the same night." So the doctors agreed to let me stay overnight. And overnight my spleen ruptured, and I had blood all in my catheter. And my mother saw that. My kidneys ruptured, and my mother saw that because when I had to use the restroom, and it hurt, and I started crying. Well, my mother came to check me out, and she lifted up the cover and saw all of that blood. She just lost it. Well, apparently the doctors were able to fix everything, so I'm still here. But that was just, to think that it wasn't for one for my grandmother, I might have died that night. So now, after leaving the hospital, and this is a real interesting point, I think. When my mother, it was just me and my younger brother, the one who just died in 2010. He just died in 2010. So when she sat me down in front of him, Haja, have you ever seen a dog when it's kind of confused about something, it'll kind of tilt his head? Well, when I looked at him, it was like I froze for a second. It was almost like, how am I looking at you? Because apparently during the NDE, during the videos, I had saw his death. So, and his funeral, I had saw it all. So imagine seeing all of that, and then all of a sudden you back and forth, back in front of him before any of that ever happened. Well, that's what confused me. But I was so young, it didn't take long before I forgot about it all, and I was playing with my little brother, and it was forgotten about. Over the years, it got pushed further and further and further away until it was all but forgotten, until that brother died. When he died of a heart attack in his sleep. So I didn't get a chance to say bye to him. And it kind of frustrated me. I felt like I got cheated by death. And, growing up in a church, I was wondering if my brother was like burning in a hell. And because I know, he wasn't perfect either, and I was worried about him burning in hell and suffering. And out of frustration, I just typed in, what happens when you die? Like Google has the answers to everything, And sure enough, Google provided me with some useful information. It popped up something called near-death experiences. So as I'm watching these near-death experiences, I'm pretty much thinking these people are full of baloney. How it's like an oxymoron. How you gonna be here and say you died? You can't have them both. But I had watched a few videos up to the point I got to this one video. There's this guy named Ian McCormick. If you get a chance, check out his near-death experience. Amazing. He was stung by a 4-box jellyfish while he was surfing, and he had got with like a movie producer to give us a visual of what he saw. So as I'm looking at his videos, I was just like this, like looking at his videos, and what made me watch his videos, because this was like the second video of his I watched. But what made me watch was the first one, because when he was telling his story, he was like he was reacting it. He was reliving it. Because if he said he saw something to his left, he would look to the left. Like he expected to see whatever it was again, or look to the right. I was like, man, if this guy is acting, he's doing a good job, because he's convincing me that it was real. He convinced me enough to watch his second video. And with this one, it was like he got with like a movie producer. So I'm watching this second video, and he gets to this point where he's in a dark place. And then he gets to the point where he says he shows some eyes looking at him. I had a flash. When he showed those eyes, I had a flash. And I said, oh, I remember that. And I was like, whoa, heck I mean I remember that. And I backed away from the computer, Haja, like it had just spoken words to me. Because that flash, that memory was real. But I had to see where it came from. So I stepped outside and thought about where that memory came from. And Haja, it's as if the floodgates to everything that I saw opened up to me. All of the stuff that I saw at 3 came back to me. And when it all came back to me, I was like, whoa, I was trying to take it all in. I was like, wait, these people say they died. So I was like, that was death? And I mean, this is the unknown question. You know, this is the one thing everybody worries about. And to think that I had caught a glimpse of it, and it wasn't all that bad. It wasn't the pit bull. It was the poodle. It was like, this is pretty cool. This is. Wait till I tell everybody. You know. So, you know, the first thing I wanted to do was try to comfort my mother and, hey, I remember everything. And, you know, but it was, my brother had just died. So, you know, it was, he died, I think a month later, I remembered. Inside a month later, the memories came back to me. So now that I have that information, it was like, wow, I mean, man, that was the most craziest thing I could have ever imagined happening. And, you know, eventually I tried to tell everybody I know, and I came to understand that that is a conversation people just do not want to talk about. Even if you got something good to say about it, people don't want to talk about it. So I kind of withheld that information in me for the longest, you know, and you know, just trying to go about living life. Now, before I tell you about one of the biggest things that happened to me as a result, I have to tell you this. I didn't realize how profound the life review was until I was at a restaurant eating one day. So I'm at the restaurant, and it's a buffet, and I'm in line waiting to get to pick my food up. So as I'm in line, I noticed this lady, and I just happened to be looking right at her, and she went to walk, and it's like she tripped over her own feet, or she tripped off of something that wasn't there, and she fell. And I remembered seeing that before. Haja, I remembered seeing that exactly like it was, and wondering how the heck could she have fallen when there was nothing there. So I was like shocked. I was like, I've seen this before. I know I've seen it before. I was so shocked that I had seen it before. It's almost like I went into automatic. I was there, but I was in automatic. Anybody's first reaction would be to walk and help the lady up. I was the closest to her. My reaction, Aja, I was so shocked about what I saw. I reached down and picked the plate up, Aja, and put the plate. I put the plate up and left the woman on the ground. I didn't snap out of it, Raja. I didn't snap out of it until I saw the other guys running and looking at me like, "What are you doing?" That's when I finally snapped out of it. And at the time, I was with my ex, and I made it to the table, and she looked at me. She's like, "What were you thinking?" And she had already knew about my near-death experience because I had told her about it. But I told her I had saw that happen before, and I just froze. I was in shock. I was in shock, and she kind of understood it. And when I realized that I had saw that, I thought, well, if I remember that, what else do I remember? So I started looking around the whole restaurant. Of course, the paintings looked familiar. The people, even the shirts that the people looked on, they looked familiar. And that's when I realized that their life review was thorough, was thorough. And seeing, so basically, I think that's where deja vu's come from, to be honest. I think that's where people get deja vu from. I don't think I'm unique.
I was just about to ask. I said, wait a minute, that sounds like deja vu.
Yeah, okay. I don't think I'm unique in any way as far as deja vu goes. Or the life, maybe we all have had some type of life preview, which is why we have deja vu. It's just a thought. It's just a thought, you know, not nothing ironclad. I'm learning as I go through people, so just we all in this together. So after that, basically, I'm just going on with life and trying to, you know, deal with it. Now, periodically, since I was in high school, so I say this was like 6 months to maybe a year later, I'm trying to, I had no girlfriend at the time, well, in high school. But every 5 or 10 years, her name would just pop up in my head. I'm like, okay, well, let me see if I can find her. I was never able to find her because we broke up. We were in another city, and my family moved away. So I was too young to stay. So we couldn't have a long distance relationship. So we eventually broke up. And I just wanted to basically just find out how life had treated her. How things have been. So from time to time, I would try to look her up, and I could never find her. Well, this one time, and I was looking for, I think, before Facebook. I think that's what it was. This one time I'm on Facebook, I believe, trying to find her. So I typed her last name in, and to my surprise, this young man popped up with her last name, and he was in the same city. So I was like, okay, at least I know she was from a different state altogether. And that last name was unique, so I figured he must know her. He had to be her nephew or son or some form of kinfolk to her. So I reached out to the young man, and I informed him that I think I might know one of his family members. I gave him a little background information, and I just waited for a reply. I got the reply, and he initially asked me who I was. I replied. He said, well, the person that you're talking about is my mother. And I was like, well, I found her after all these years. So I was like, well, can you, how's she doing? If she's married or anything, I don't mean no disrespect. I was just want to say, He said, well, he replied, my mother has been dead since I was 10. And it was like getting hit in the stomach. It was like, oh, whoa, all of these years I've been looking for her, and she's gone. And felt almost cheated again, actually, by that. But I asked him, I said, well, I'm real sorry to hear that. I mean, I was shocking. Can you send me some pictures of her and, her daughter? I knew she had a daughter at the time. And so he sent me some pictures of her and pictures of her daughter and a picture of him. So as I'm looking at all of these pictures and just going back, reminiscing, seeing how she had grown up, and I looked at a picture of her daughter, how she had grown up. I actually think she was the prettiest girl ever. And he showed me the picture. I saw a picture of him, and when I looked at the picture that he sent me of him, I had a flash come by, just a little, and it was like, hey, it's like I've seen this picture before. So I focused on it a little bit more. And when I focused on it more, it was like I had a word pop in my head, son. So I was like, whoa, now I remember where I saw this picture from. I realized that this young man had just sent me over the internet the same picture that I saw that was paused on when I was 3 years old. And I was thinking, my son? I knew the last time I saw this picture, I was looking at a picture of my son. And as I'm going through all of that, I asked him a question. I was like, well, because I'm thinking, does this mean this is my son? So I'm thinking, okay, I gotta, what is up with this? So I said, I replied, well, if your mother died, who raised you? I mean, how have you been living all of this year? So he informed me that his mother's boyfriend had pretty much raised him, and I said, well, is that your father? He said, no, it's not my father. I said, well, where's your father? He said, these words always get to me when I think about it. I haven't yet found him. And when he said, I haven't yet found him, Aja, everything came full circle. Everything made complete sense. I realized all of this time I had her name popping up in my head. It was like I was being guided to find him.
Yes.
So with that realization, I told him, I think you had indeed found your father. And we, you know, caught up on everything. I let him know what happened and how if I didn't know anything about him in existence, if I had, we would, you know, things would be completely different. But I'm glad we had found each other, and not a week later, we were face to face. I met him, and it was as if we knew each other all the while. And he actually spent that Christmas, met the whole family that Christmas, and my grandsons.
My goodness.
So yes, grandson.
Mhm.
He apparently started early, but it was just it was shocking to say the least to know
Wow.
that I had been guided to find a son I never knew I had. And we are close to this day. You know, keep in contact. You know, he has as long as his life, his wife, and kids, and but we stay in
Right.
contact, and it's like we've known each other all the while. You know, um, so that NDE, that preview stuff,
It's
it's
real.
deep. It's
It's
really deep.
real.
It's real deep.
Oh, nice. That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, so that was a beautiful experience, Leonard. Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for
it was
sharing.
quite amazing to live.
And I'm assuming like most NDEers, during the time it took you a while to share that with other people. Like, did you share it with family members or friends?
I did initially, and it was kind of shunned. So eventually, I wanted to talk to people who understood. So I ended up going to some NDE meetings and meeting other NDEers. It was like being a part of a different part of society, and people that understood because they had seen it, and it was nice to have somebody to share things like that with, non-judgmental. But no, I say non-judgmental, but really, it doesn't. I mean, I can't say that it affects me how if a person believes this or if a person believes that because um, only thing I can do is divulge what I know, and it's up to any individual how they want to take it. You know, that's all I can do is share it. And it was nice to have someone to share those things with, and I learned a lot from those meetings too. I met a lot of good people.
Good, good, good. And your religious beliefs, like you mentioned that your grandmother was Christian, so I'm going to assume that you were raised Christian up until you were three
I
years
grew
old.
up in a church and with all of the shouting and everything that goes on in the churches and the and one of the things that really got to me and one of the things I really questioned as a result of my NDE was the whole heaven and hell part of it. I don't understand the hellish part of it enough to say yeah or nay, but I can only go based on my own experience. And from my experience, it was all beautiful. But the one common thing that I find in even the indies that I've had like hellish experiences is that they were all able to come back and say what they saw, which is not what I grew up in a church house believing. You know, it was a one-way ticket. You know,
Yes.
with no back door. So,
Hmm.
you know, with that said, I can't say that people haven't. Maybe people see what we need to see to make the changes in life that we need. I don't know. It's just a
That sounds like
I
a
can't.
possibility. Yeah.
Yes, it could very well be. You know, but yeah, like I said, they were able to come back and say what they taught, what they saw. So I guess in the end, it wasn't so bad for them either. You know.
Yeah. And did your religious beliefs change at all when you came back? Or
Um,
things that you started to believe that you didn't? Or...
one thing I could say is that I think if it wasn't for the church, I wouldn't know who Jesus was. You know, when I saw him. Um, but with that said, I know that he's real. Um, I've seen him. As a matter of fact, have you ever seen the movie Heaven is for Real?
I don't believe so. No.
I advise
Heaven
you
is
and
for real.
all of your listeners to watch this movie, because in this movie, okay, I put it like this: I didn't know who it was. I didn't know that it was Jesus over here. I didn't know that it was Jesus I had talked to until I was doing my research into NDEs, and Colton Burpo, that's his name, Colton Burpo popped up, and he's the one, he's the young man that the movie's about. And in the movie, this young girl painted a picture. She was 9 years old when she painted this picture. When I saw that picture, I said, "Hey, that's the person I talked to. That's the person." I'm talking about Haja. Not one hair was out of place.
Wow.
From the person I saw to what she painted, not one hair was out of place. And when I looked at the name that she had on the bottom of that picture, which was Prince of Peace, I knew I had saw Jesus. And this painting, when I don't want to spoil the movie for y'all. Need to watch the movie. You need to watch the movie. But you can look at this picture. You can see the face of Jesus right now if you type in "girl paints Jesus." And for everybody that types it in, you are going to see the literal face that I saw at 3 years old.
Okay.
The
I've
person
seen this
that I
picture
talked
before.
to. Yes, you are
Mhm.
looking at the person that I know to be Jesus, with the exception of the eyes. The eyes can't be, the pictures don't show the eyes, but like I saw them. But yes, that is the exact person that I saw. So as far as my religious beliefs, um, they were unshakable prior to the NDE stuff coming into my life. But now I have to say that I think one of the problems that I have with religions is that I think it handcuffs the love that is shared for us, the love that is had that he had for us. I think they the world kind of handcuffs that love. Like, you have to be this, you have to be that, you have to be this, you have to be that, and I think we are all loved beyond all knowing. I don't think we understand how much each and every one of us are loved. I don't think I'm anything unique. I'm no more unique than that homeless person up the street. He loves him as much as he loves me. And, I have to suspect that he loves that person that's doing wrong right now as much as he loves me. You know, that's the one thing that I think is different. And I don't too much worry about burning in hell. um, I'd have to say, when I got that answer, I was talking to my mother about this yesterday. Um, to get that answer always, Haja, there's a lot in that one word. A lot in that one word. I mean, a simple yes would have sufficed. But why did I hear always? Because that signifies a lot. Like, always signifies more than just one time, doesn't it? And and I do remember when I saw that blackness, it was like, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. And you couple that with other NDEs I've heard, and then there are some children that remember remembering living lives before. If you can Google kids remembering past lives. And when you put all this together, it just really leans toward reincarnation, which is a big difference from what the church talks about. But I have to think that that's a possibility, knowing that we can come in and out of these bodies. These are nothing more than clothes, or transportation of some kind that we use to go through life. So I would have to say that's one of the biggest changes, is that I no longer worry about, am I good enough? But that doesn't give me the okay to just go out and rob, steal, and kill. There's a little bit of responsibility that comes with the knowing that you're okay. And what I try to do is just be the best version of myself that I can every day. every day.
Perfect. It's a great answer. And it kind of leads me to, I want to stay in order to some extent, but it does lead me to a few questions about your experience.
Okay.
So when the voice that said let go, I'm assuming it was an audible voice because you said it kind of
Yes.
startled you. Okay.
Yes.
Was it the same female voice as the person who was across the street saying for you to
Okay.
come?
The first voice I heard was a male voice that said let go. And the second, I heard basically three voices. I heard let go, I heard let go again, both were males, and then I heard her tell me to come to her. But when she told me to come to her, it was like telepathy. It was like, because she was too far, but it was like she was standing right in my ear saying, come here. And
This is different. Okay,
yes,
this is interesting because you're hearing first of three voices. So I'm assuming because this is not the voice of Jesus that's saying let go.
I don't know. I know it was a male voice, and the voice sounded authoritative but caring. Like, let go. Like, you're doing this to yourself. Let go. And that's when I felt confident enough to, like, I'm tired anyway. Okay, I'll let go. So
Who do you think that was then?
if it wasn't Jesus, I don't know. Because if we say, well, was it God? I mean, well, what is God? Who is God? Is it an individual sitting on a throne somewhere, or is it I don't know. But
Okay,
I know as an individual, if there was an individual, I had to say it was Jesus.
okay.
I'd have
But
to say
did you hear Jesus' voice at any? I mean, you spoke to him.
we spoke telepathy. We spoke mentally. And here's the thing, though. I'm glad you brought that up because as we were talking, I remember it felt awkward talking to him and his mouth never moving. It felt, because up to this time, being 3, I had only seen mouths move and word come out. So it was kind of weird talking to him and his mouth never moved. But it was like that was an innate ability that we have is to talk with our minds. It was so normal. It wasn't even a thought other than it just seemed abnormal. Like your mouth is not moving.
So because that voice was audible, and then the rest of your conversations with Jesus were telepathic, that's why it's still, you can't say that was not Jesus. You don't know. It could have been.
I don't
That's
know.
how.
I don't. I mean,
Wow.
it was all audible. Like even the telepathy was audible, but there was no mouth movements. It was like hearing it. You heard it. If I were to just say think cake, you would hear cake. So that's what it was like. So yeah, that was unique.
Okay. And then at the moment, your soul, soul or spirit, your consciousness left your body. You said you felt a vibration. It's almost like it was calibrating or something. It was like woo, woo.
When I think about it now, I think that vibration was my frequency changing. I think that the spirit world is all around us right now, but we're on a different frequency. We can't see it until we match that frequency. I'm learning a lot about frequencies right now and vibrations,
Wow.
and the law of attraction. I'm pretty deep into everything that I can find and get some knowledge from. And I think that's what it is. I think my frequency, my vibration was changing, which allowed me to see things other than we can perceive right now, because I was equal to that frequency.
Perfect. That is everything. Like if you think about it, you can just take that one thought and just keep, because that could be why people have the hellish experiences. They're vibrating at a very
Low frequency.
and they are seeing things that are just not, because to some extent there's hell on earth. Like I've met people that literally can bring hell anywhere they go. So
they had that vibration with them.
Yeah. So if you could have that, here, I'm pretty sure there might be realms that, are similar. And if you're not at the right vibration, it would make you, and that just shows people you got to be high vibe, you got to be cleansing, you got to be purifying,
Yes.
So, and that's where that idea comes, because like we have these religions that have parts of the truth, or the truth that kind of got a little distorted a little bit.
Yes.
So that could be why they have that idea of heaven and hell and stuff like that. It could be right to some extent,
Yes, to some extent.
To some extent.
Exactly.
Is what it
exactly.
Exactly. And then when you were in that space, let me just go in order so I don't go out of order.
Okay.
Okay, so you said that the world, basically this world that we're living in now, this realm, looked like, and you kind of went out. Was it a negative of a photo negative?
It looks exactly like the negatives of a photo. Just no color.
Where it's just completely black, or
black and white, or gray, just no color. And that's interesting because, when I was talking to Jeff, we had the conversation about what this is that we call life, this world that we live in, and if it's a simulation. Well, seeing the negative of a photo, it really gives a lot of credence to the simulation thought. Like, why would it look like the negatives of a photo? Well,
that was one of my questions, so we should stay on it a little bit, is do you think this is a simulation? Because a lot of what you saw were like screens and,
Yes. Even I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't said this too much, but this is something I thought about. Even Jesus looked like a hologram. He looked like a hologram to me. I don't know why, because there have been some people that have actually held hands with him and walked with him and talked with him, but he looked like a hologram to me. And to this day, I don't know why that is, but that's way beyond my knowledge.
Yeah. I'm just glad that you're sharing it, because some people will have this experience or have these experiences, and they try their best to color it into something that either people will tolerate and deal with, or something that goes along with their already predetermined, beliefs.
That's
and
so
the
right.
the whole point of researching these experiences is to try to get the truth. We're in a place where we've been kind of thrown out here. We don't know who we are. We don't really know where we're at. We don't know where we're going. It's like Lost.
Yes, exactly.
A major game of Lost.
It's like my uncle. My uncle, when he taught me how to swim, he just threw me in the deep. And I came up out of that water. So I guess we just all been thrown in here, and eventually though, we figure it out. I believe.
So we have to be real about what we do experience, so that we can put all the puzzle pieces together and try to get, figure it out.
That's exactly how I put it. I get a little bit of this information, and I try to put it all together in a make sense puzzle. Yeah, this fits, that doesn't, and just try to make sense of it all.
Because when I hear these experiences, I very rarely question them. I really feel like there's no questioning it. These are experiences that people are having, right?
Yes.
But then you can start really dissecting them and just saying, okay, are they really what they are seeing? Or if you go really far down the rabbit hole, there are some scenarios or possibilities that it's aliens or some kind of trickery happening, where it is just they're manipulating what you're seeing. And we, like you said, we don't know. Anybody arguing that with you doesn't know what they're talking about.
I have thought about my NDE as a whole, and I was, because I grew up in the church, and I was wondering, well, could I have been manipulated as a child? Then I thought about it, like, first of all, there was nothing but goodness over there. Second of all, if I was manipulated, then we're screwed, because I was 3. I was young and innocent. If a 3-year-old that's young and innocent can be manipulated, then we're gonna need some help.
And then it's like Matrix level problems, right?
Yes. So I don't know. I don't. With that said, I think that I think we're all good.
Did you feel the love? Is what I would like to ask you. Did you feel it? Did you feel the love that they talk about, the unconditional love?
Yes, and it came back with me too.
Okay.
When it came back with the memories, almost like a gift. Here, take a little bit of that feeling with you too, and it was like, wow, that was pretty cool. And yes, my whole life is, I had a aneurysm disappear, Haja.
What?
Yes. I forgot to mention this, but I'll tell it real quick, real quick.
Yes.
Um, Now I would say like inside a month, yeah, right after I found out, everything came back to me. All the while though, throughout this, I was having some tremendous headaches. And one day I'm having these headaches, and these headaches, when I say they were so profound, I would take medicine before they even hit me because I knew that they would hit me. And the pain was so excruciating, it was almost like it was gonna bust. And one day I was having these headaches, and my mother was over. My brother just died like a month ago, or so ago, and she asked me to go to the hospital. And me being, I'm a big tough guy, I don't have to go to the hospital, but I'm thinking, okay, I don't need to put her through anything further. So I'll just go. So we go to the hospital, and they do some preliminary test. So while we're off in the room waiting, I'm in the bed, kind of relaxing. My mother's sitting on a chair, and all of a sudden, a nurse busts through the door. She says, "Mr. Rogers, we're gonna be prepping you for surgery and taking you upstairs." And but she's talking to me, and I'm listening to her. But when she came in, she put something on my bed, and I'm looking at what she's talking, what she put on my bed. I realized it was a defibrillator. So as she's talking to me, she doesn't understand. At the moment, she's sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher because I was focused on this thing that she had just put on my bed, but I managed to pick up found blood, doctor coming in, taking you up, prepping you for surgery, and she walks out. So I'm looking at this defibrillator like, what did I miss? Why did she come put a defibrillator on my bed? I just came here for a headache. And a few minutes later, the doctor walks in, and he says, "Mr. Rogers, you know, we found an aneurysm, and we're going to be taking you upstairs and prepping you for emergency surgery." And he pretty much said, "Good luck," and walked out. I like, over the years I've said it was like Dr. House would have, good luck, and he just walked out. Well, when he walked out, it was as if I was getting a slight deja vu. Like I've seen this, and my mother was to the right, and I had already told her about my near-death experience. And I had when I told her I started having a deja vu, I was remembering some things that hadn't quite happened. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm remembering some things that haven't happened, I'm going to walk out of this hospital then. That's what I'm thinking. So I asked my mother, I said, well, what do you think about the stuff that I told you? And my mother, she looked at me, and she said, it was kind of cold. She said, "I think you made up this fantasy world because you couldn't deal with your brother's passing." And I was like, it was like hitting the stone, like, well, I mean, this came from me. I mean, you're supposed to believe anything I tell you, but I kind of understood it because I knew she just didn't know. She just didn't know. So I wasn't going to be mad at her or upset because she didn't. I knew, and that was good enough for me.
Yeah.
But I still kind of, it was bothering me a little. So they're prepping me for surgery. They take me upstairs, and when I got to the floor, as they're rolling me by these rooms, every room that I go by, these people are looking like any second they're going to be on the other side. Any second they're going to be dead. I mean, so as they're rolling me by, I'm like, are they sure they brought me to the right floor? And so eventually they get me to my floor, to my room. So they roll me in a room, and as I'm getting situated in there, I look out the door, and they're rolling somebody by, and they stop her right in front of my door. And as I'm looking at this woman, I and her husband was following her, and they had a son. And and she looked out of it. Her eyes looked like they were rolled in the back of her head, and she basically looked like she was fixing to die. And so they rolled her away. And when they rolled her away, I was still looking in that direction, and I noticed that there was a plaque on the wall. I couldn't see the plaque, what it was saying or what it was. But so they rolled her away, and I'm sitting off in there just trying to, think about everything that's going on. I had this near-death experience, and now, might be finna have another one. But I looked at my mother, and for some reason, I wasn't concerned about what was going to happen to me. But I wanted my mother to know that everything was real. So I prayed a real quick prayer. I said, God, I need you to show Mama that all of this was real and make it all go away. That simple prayer right there. So I said that prayer, and they're still prepping me for surgery. And after a while, they come in there, and they said, well, we're having some problems finding the blood, and we need your permission to do a spinal tap. So I was like, okay, cool. Because when they first came in there and said that, we can't find the blood, I'm thinking, okay, my prayer has been answered already. All of this is fixing to go away. But I was like, okay, sure. So they took me downstairs, and they were fixing to give me the spinal tap. And the doctor told me, do not move. Whatever you do, do not move. So I'm like, okay, fine. So he stuck me, and I jerked a little bit. And the doctor got livid. He got livid. And I was thinking, well, if he's mad, he's telling me, Mr. Rogers, you cannot move. I said, well, if he's this nervous and he got this mad, I better not move. So I just stayed as still as I could, and he actually stuck it in there. I didn't move, and when he pulled out the water, the fluid, he asked me if I wanted to take a look at it. I looked at it, and it looked like clear drinking water, pure drinking water. They expected to find red, cloudy fluid with blood in it, but it would look like it was pure drinking water. So they take me back upstairs, and they come back in, and they said, well, Mr. Ryan, I asked them, well, what's going on? Did you guys, is everything okay? They said, well, we can no longer find the blood. And I took this mama to mess with them. I ain't gonna lie, because I knew what had happened. But I wanted to see how the doctors were gonna react to this. I said, well, what happened to the blood, doc? Can you tell me what? They said, well, to be honest, we don't know. We want to keep you for a little while just to make sure.
They want to keep you until they can figure out, is it still really there? Until they're right. They want to keep you until they're right.
Yes. They want to make sure but after a while, they came in with some paperwork. They wanted me to sign because they were afraid I was going to sue them, because they had given me steroids and things of that nature, prepping me for the surgery. And I gladly signed it. I was like, Doc, I know y'all were just trying to save my life. What type of person would sue the hospital for trying to save their life? So I signed the papers, and was pretty much, they held me for a couple of days until I convinced them to let me go. I was like, Doc, I believe I'm gonna be okay. Can I just go ahead and be released? So they said, well, we don't have any reason to keep you, so I guess we're going to reluctantly let you go. So I'm getting ready to go. I'm like, okay, cool. I've had this miraculous healing. I'll show Mama. So after the miraculous healing, I asked Mama, I said, well, what do you think about what I told you now? My mother said, well, you weren't the only one praying, son. And I was like, are you serious? I was like, are you serious? So, I just took it with a grain of salt. But here's the thing. As I was getting ready to go out of the room, They were they sent somebody up because they have to roll you downstairs and, to let you get into the car. They can't let you walk for some reason. I guess it's hospital policy. So she rolled me out of the room, and I finally got to look at that plaque that was on the wall. The plaque on the wall read, "Miracles grow where you plant them." So I'm thinking, well, who am I? I mean, why can't I get a miraculous healing and not everybody on this floor get one? How am I different than this mother, this grandmother, that father? So I immediately pray for everybody on that floor to be healed. Everybody on that floor to be healed. And then, so she takes me downstairs, and this is one of the most difficult parts for me to talk about. As I'm downstairs, because she said, well, she was waiting because they had to wait for a car to come pick you up. I told her there was a car on the way, and I'm sure she'll be here any second, but really there was no car coming. I just knew my ex at the time was asleep with the kids, and I didn't want to wake her up. So I said, well, I'm sure my ride will be here. So she walked away. So I let her walk away, and as she walked away, and she's far enough along, I said, well, okay, now I can go. Now, what are the odds that the moment I get ready to walk out that door, the husband of the woman that was on that stretcher walks out the door in front of me? So he's walking in front of me, and I'm walking behind him out the door. And I get this thought in my head, telling his wife is going to be okay. And I'm like, no, because I saw the condition his wife was in. Who am I to tell this man his wife is going to be okay? But this feeling got so strong to me. Before you know it, excuse me, sir, you don't know me, but I was upstairs with your wife on the same floor, and I just want you to know, I think your wife is going to be okay. And I just had a healing. I'm talking to this man, and as I'm talking to him, Haja, all of the energy that I had, the excitement that I had for myself, it's like I was giving to him as I was taking his negative energy. Like it was almost, as the words came out of me, I was getting more debilitated, and I could see his level of happiness come up. And by the time I finished talking with this man, he was walking away with a smile, and I was walking away with a frown. Haja, I walked away from that hospital. It started drizzling. I walked all the way home. And I'd have to say, I started crying. It's because everything hit me. It was like, whoa, this is really deep. And I'm thinking, I hope I didn't just give this man false hope and all this stuff. So I'm basically crying and praying for this man and his wife the whole walk home. I wasn't even thinking about what I just went through. I was worried about me having given this man false hope. And so I basically walked all the way home, and I, to this day, don't know what happened to him or his wife or whatever, but I have to believe that she's okay. I have to believe that people on that floor made it, because I'm not anybody special. And I know I was guided to talk to this guy, just like I was guided to find my son, So I just had to
keep
tell
saying,
you.
who am I? And it's, who are we? Like, we all are everything to one another. And I've had experiences just like that, with that same impulse to do something or to say something at just the right moment to somebody. And I thankfully, especially living in the city, had the chance to see how that, sometimes you don't see it and you're kind of stuck, with like this situation. But I've had odd moments where I was able the next day to see that same person totally fine, whatever it was.
Wow.
So again, because I've had a weird life, everything you're saying, I can co-sign. I'm like, yep. 100%.
Yeah, when you get that urge, it's like you're told to do something. I'm like, are you sure?
And we can also transfer energy. That's why I had to leave the city as well, because I was consuming so much dark energy. It was like overwhelming. So you can literally do an energy transfer. And I feel like when you're an NDE or like yourself, and you've gone to the other side and had that switch in vibration, there's something that a lot of times is something still open, and there's always something a little different, you know, that vibration a little off, you know, where you have those abilities, and that's another question I have, so I'll ask it now. But you'll have those abilities like what Jesus had, walking on water, turning the you know, the water into wine, etc. Like these are things that we have the capacity to do once we meet that vibration.
Yeah.
Which some NDEers do. So my next question is, you know, do you feel like at any point after that experience that you had paranormal type abilities?
I'd have to say very, very, very strong deja vus. So strong, I can give you one instance that happened to me. And me and some buddies were I was at a buddy's in my house, and we were playing basketball on a video game. And it was about 5 or 6 of us in there. And the conversation started feeling familiar to me. Like I had heard what everybody was saying and everybody's rebuttal. I had heard it all before. And it got so strong that I started being a couple of seconds ahead. I started being a couple of seconds ahead of what was being said. And I remembered something happening. I'm like, okay, well, at this point, this when he busts through the door. So I just yelled out, they were finna bust through that door. That's one of my homeboys. And not 5 seconds later, he bust through the door. And everybody asked me, how did you know he was gonna do that? I really didn't know how I knew he was gonna do that. All I could say at the time was that I just got it like that. But I really didn't know. So when he bust through the door, everybody said, how did you know he was gonna? I said, well, I just got it like that. And everybody started laughing, which made him ask, well, why is everybody laughing? Which made everybody laugh even more. And I talked to my buddy about that the other day. I was like, do you remember this happening? He said, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. So I would have to say very, very strong deja vu. Putting it lightly.
Great, wow.
Putting it lightly.
That's where that psychic ability kind of comes from. You literally, because you've seen that preview or life review.
Or download.
Already there. Or download.
Or download.
Yeah. Yes, yes. And we'll get to that in a minute, because I think I had maybe one more question about the actual experience that, to me, I'm kind of stuck there, because to me, there's a lot of meat in this part.
Okay.
But when you, and I'm a little confused, so I have a question about what was to your left and what was to your right. But once you had gone through the dark space, which to me, I mean, I'm assuming it's the void that everybody talks about.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
The void. So it was the void, and then there was a lighter space. Like, you didn't really explain the space.
Okay.
Speaking to Jesus. How does that look?
Okay. In linear terms, I got irritated by their feelings that I was having, and I wanted to leave. But when I left, that's when I entered the void, the darkness, and I was just there thinking. And it's like I was there for like years and years. At which point, my mindset changed. Something I thought about changed. I'm actually thinking it has something to do with my religion. I'm actually thinking it was something to do with the religion. And it's something I needed to let go, or something I needed to find. I don't know. It's something to do with my religion. That's the only thing I can kind of get a hint of what I was thinking about. But after that, then whenever it was, I may have had a good thought, because all of a sudden I felt myself moving again. And when I moved again, that's when I saw the auras. I could see the auras of people. It had like an outline of like a light blue and white that outlines. It's like people look like shadows, but I can see the auras. And it's at that point I had some conversations, and I don't know if I talked to Jesus at this point or it was later after I saw the eye, but at some point I had a conversation with Jesus. I can't really pinpoint it in a linear term. I tried to do it the best I could, with the. No,
I totally get that. Like I said, I have some experiences that I haven't unearthed yet, and part of it, I understand that time is not linear at all in that space.
It's not.
And I think that's also what they mean when they say, "Oh, you spend an eternity in heaven." It's because everything feels like an eternity there. Like, you know, it's not a
Yes.
normal time frame.
There's no such thing as time.
Yeah.
Basically, time. I wrote a book. I called the book "The Inevitable Illusion." I'm still in the process of trying to get it published, working out the financial part of it. But the book is called "The Inevitable Illusion," and in the book, I talk about all of that. And um, I lost my train of thought talking about the book. That was the first time I brought the book.
But I think because in this moment, anybody who is a publisher or can help out, here you go.
Yes. Please do reach out. Please do reach out, because I do want to get the book published, but I just been putting it on a back burner. But yes, in the book I talk about everything new, and there's a few extra things in the book that I didn't talk to you about, but it would have been a lengthy.
No, it's fine. I want people to read that book. I want people to help me get it published. I want them to read it, because remember what you said. Like, you know, Jesus clearly understood, understood the truth behind what you were thinking. Yes. You know, when it was time to come back, and you finally said, you know, the first truth was that you wanted to be, you know, that new car or whatever. But the ultimate truth was what? Because you said it so beautifully. Your ultimate truth, the reason why you wanted to come back here was
to leave the world a better place than I had.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
that was in the heart. That was truly what I wanted. And you know, that car was a piece of junk. That car was the worst car in the world. Worst car in the world.
But so back to that moment where you were looking. I think you said to the right was something that you felt unworthy.
Okay, to the right. I feel like to the right was Jesus.
Okay,
it was almost like this. It was almost like stepping into the tunnel, looking left, looking right, then hurrying up and looking straight ahead. Like, I don't want to look at him, because I had just saw my life review or life preview, and some facets of it, you know, might not have been some of my strongest points. You know, love affairs, things of that nature. You know, some things might not have been my strongest point. I think I felt a little bit of shame, so I didn't want to look that direction. And that's the only reason I didn't want to. I just felt I deserved to be able to look at it.
Okay. Well, here's the weird thing. Because you were so young, it was a life preview as opposed to a life review, right? So that's what makes it a little different.
Yes.
But here's the other weirder thing is that, you know, not to say we, but a lot of people who do the, you know, QHHT and, you know, hypnosis say that you do the life planning. So the pre-life planning. Yes. So this kind of confirms that, but it's like, where does free will come into play? Because if you're looking at this whole life and you're, you know, and for the most part, all these things happen.
Yes.
Where did you have a chance to?
Well, in my book, I put it like this. I put it in my book. I say, well, I believe that we have a predetermined destination. Either you're going to be a preacher, you're going to be this, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. But I believe free will dictates which road we take to get to that direction. If you take the long road, it takes you a longer time. You know, you might not want to have anything to do with spirituality. You might want to not a people person. It might have took you a little bit longer to get to that, you know, to the point where you're veering back on course. That was just something I thought about. I think that free will is, we have it, but we have a predetermined, either pre-planned destination or a destination in which it could be a variety of points that we could come out of. I don't know. But I have to say that there's a predetermined destination, pretty much.
And then the I, we have to make sure we hit on it because, you know, time is kind of getting close. But the I that has been clearly Ian McCormick, you said he said something about it. There's another, a few
he said he felt something looking at him. He said he felt something looking at him. Now, when I think about the I was thinking, well, what could that I be? Over the years, I've thought about it. And the first thing I thought about, well, there's an eye on our money. I was like, does it have anything to do with this I? There's something I need to know about this I. So when I wrote the book, I actually asked people, I said, for you readers who are reading this book, if you know anything about this I, have any kind of hypothesis, just let me know, because I don't have the answers to it. I don't know if it was my own mind's eye. I have no idea of knowing, or if it has something to do with the Illuminati or whatever. I don't know.
Sometimes when I hear about it, because I do believe the Anunnaki, I kind of have some feeling that there's some truth to that. They talk about Enlil's all-seeing eye, and then you have the Black Knight satellite that's up there that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm just watching everything.
That little black one is just floating up there. Yeah. Yes.
So there's so many. I mean, like you said, like our money, we have the eye there. You have the Lord of the Rings. They have that eye that's always showing.
Yes.
You know, so it comes up in so many different places that there's some truth to it. There's something to it.
Yes.
It's something that we need to be probably paying attention to as well, because it seems like
that's one of the main things that just really I wonder about. Well, what was that about? You know, I don't have I figure somebody will be able to give me the answers, and for all I know, you might have just hit the nail on the head. You know, maybe it has something to do with the Anunnaki.
Work together and try to put the puzzle pieces together, because it's like there's clearly something about an eye. There's clearly,
yes.
And you also have the eye of Horus and the eye of Ra that's used for protection. So there's something that we can have a whole
conversation just about the eye.
About the eye, you know, just try to figure out what is this, you know.
Yes, exactly.
The reason why I think is of importance is that with the Jesus entity that you communicated with, you felt the love, you felt that unconditional love that everybody generally feels in the NDE, but you felt fear.
Yes, when I saw that eye. Yeah, I was like, and
it's like you were protected.
Not right about this.
You were protected from that.
Yes, but I feel like it was in a dimension other than where I was. It was almost like it was on another part of the wall, but I could see, you know, through whatever that was, and it could see me. It's like when I fell in, it looked at me, and it was like, what is this, you know? But the first thing that happened was that fear was taken away from me. So I knew after that breeze hit me, I didn't have to fear that I or anybody else's eye or anybody else's demon or anybody else's Satan or I didn't have to fear anything in existence.
Yeah.
Anything.
And I feel like that whole moment is so beautiful, because on one hand it shows you that there might be realms where there's this darkness, this fear, this thing, that something that we would call hell, but there's always that protection. Like good always outweighs the evil. It's like almost like it's a flea. Like just get rid of it. Like
exactly.
That's not a problem.
Exactly.
Not a problem.
Oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
It's only a problem if you're vibrating and you're stuck in that realm.
Yes,
you know?
And you're stuck there.
So don't do it. Don't allow it.
Exactly. You're so right about that. You know, our mental state dictates a lot, you know, even in today's life. I don't know if you know about the law of attraction or not, but that's something I'm starting to implement in my life, you know, and negative thinking carries a lot. I mean, people are implementing the law of attraction, don't even know, you know, when people say, dang, I'm always broke, I ain't got no money. Well, if this world that God put us in is designed to give us what we want, if it's good or bad, if it's in your heart, you're going to get it. So as long as you keep thinking I'm broke, I ain't got no money, well, apparently that's what the universe thinks that you want, so it's going to give you more of that. So I'm basically trying to change my mindset. I found out that we have, this is kind of hard to believe, 52,000 negative thoughts a day. 52,000. And each one of those is a hindrance to stop us from getting the things that we want. So it's
and add on top of that being an underdog, being handicapped, being of a racial or minority group that's not being, you know. So it's like don't believe the hype.
Exactly.
It's real.
Exactly. And I catch myself. I mean, even negative thoughts about others. And now that I'm vigilant, I catch myself thinking about negative thoughts about others, even just little small negative thoughts. So I'm trying to get to the point where I try to wipe away any negative thought, you know. But it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, because this world is designed almost, I think, to break us down mentally, to where we
Yeah.
can conform and just be another one of the robots, you know?
Yes, yes. The power of thoughts, you know, you can literally create, they call it thought forms. You literally can create these entities sometimes just from a really dark or, you know, dark thought or negative thought. But at the same token, you can create goodness. Like I've had like almost miraculous, and I have a life where some things have been really, really bad or ridiculously good to the point where it's like, how is that even possible? You know,
Yes.
so it's
Yes.
and NDEs, and you know this, you can literally with a thought. Remember how in your NDE you had where you were like kind of annoyed that they were worrying about that body, you know?
Yes.
And it also makes me wonder about, is that how ours, like maybe our spirit guides or angels feel, because they see things from a much grander scale. So when we're worrying about, oh, I can't pay this and I got to get the money for
Yes.
that, they're probably like, oh God, you know,
Not
I'll be
this
back.
again.
I'll be
Not this
back.
again.
So you as a spirit were kind of like, what are they work? Like, I can't hear this. And you know, you
Yes.
go to the
No.
void to just think, you
It
know?
was like having somebody run their hand across a chalkboard. It was really bothering me. It was like, oh, I can't take it. I gotta go. I gotta go.
Yeah.
I
And as
gotta
soon
go.
as you think of something else, it seems the most NDEs, you're there. As soon as you want
Yes.
anything, you're there. It's the power of thought
Thought.
is truly manifesting. It's amazing.
Yes. I think I was moving at the speed of thought. I think I was moving
So
at the
I
speed
think
of thought.
what I've heard is that on Earth we still have that power, but like everything else is subdued dramatically.
Oh yes, I felt so when I was out of this body. I felt huge. It was like when I got put back in. It was like being just tossed into something that you're too small for, too
Like a
big for. It
genie
was
in a bottle.
like I didn't fit, and it took a second to like assimilate to being back in it because I felt huge when I was out of it.
Yeah.
Huge. So
Wow.
yeah.
I think of it as like a genie in a bottle. It really does seem like we're much bigger than this. Much
No,
bigger.
we are much more than we know. You know,
And
each and
that's,
every one of us.
I'm getting goosebumps because I'm just thinking, because that's part of maybe what the whole purpose here is, you know, is to gradually get out, like, because like you said, this is kind of like a car, but to expand beyond this car, to kind of get back
Yes,
to our natural state so that we can start creating a world that looks much better than what we're looking at now.
exactly. And that's where I am right now, trying to find out, okay, well, what is, because I believe that we have the ability to use our mind to talk. And, you know, we have certain innate abilities and certain things that we can do that are kind of like being withheld from us or trying to, you know, they're trying to stop us from being able to use. And the more that we open up spiritually, like we think about money, we should be thinking about spiritual growth. Because with spiritual growth, you'll have anything in this world you want, but you have to have the spiritual growth to go with it, you know. So I'm just trying to grow and help others grow at this point.
Okay. Well, you kind of answered another question I had, which was, is there anything about your NDE experience that still puzzles you? So I know the I was puzzling. Is there anything
Yes.
else that you still kind of, oh yeah, wait, and when you saw the being or something that flashed before you, right before the accident, you
Yeah,
said that might be.
I'm honestly thinking that was me.
Okay.
I'm thinking that was me, and I just like being at two places at one time. And for that instant, we were both in the same place, my 3-year-old and then my adult body at the same place at the same time. That's the only thing I can come up with that makes any kind of sense. Because it's not like something stopped the car from hitting me. It was just like it was there to stop, look, observe, and leave. So I'd have to say that was probably me. You know, if I had to use just common sense to figure it out, that's what I come up with. You know, that was just me checking out the scene.
Those two things. So was there anything else that was still puzzles you and makes you kind of think like, what was that?
That's about it. That I think everything else was pretty much obvious. Or
So another question I had was, did you receive or have you received any downloads or knowings since then that you want to share with anyone who ever uses Instagram?
No, I received I guess I received a quick download when all of the memories came back to me. Like, remember all of this? I'd have to say that. Yeah, that's probably. I don't know. I think we might be getting downloads in our sleep. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, there are certain times I might have my eyes closed, and I can still see this. It's almost like being in a movie
Wow.
and watching the frames go by. Sometimes I can close my eyes and still see. I don't know. Maybe somebody out there can say that this is the case, but it's almost like we're living inside a movie and living and starring, and then watching
the Truman Show, right?
Yes, yes. It's almost like that. I would have to assume. Yeah, because I mean, why would I be still seeing that? I mean, on this side, just a little fashion.
I'll tell you, your experience opens up so many questions. It really does.
Yes.
So many questions.
I've gotten that before on other interviews. It's like, well, and he asked me the same question. What does your interview say? What does your experience say about free will? And I only gave him the same answer. I don't know. But I have to admit that, out of all my NDEs, out of all the NDEs I've researched, I've never heard anybody that said that they had a life preview. So I don't know if that's something unique I need to be trying to do with it or not. But I appreciate all NDEs, all of them, because you can find out so much. To me, the NDEs have become my new Bible. Because what's better for information than something, that you can hear from the horse's mouth? I mean, somebody has been there and done that.
Okay, so we had a little tech glitch. My phone died even though it was charging. Way too much energy happening in this conversation.
It's all good. It's all good.
So can people contact you? And if you want them to contact you, how do you want them to contact you?
Sure. My email address is fine. Feel free to give it to your listeners, and they can reach out at any time, and I'll be happy to talk with them about whatever I can to help out. Okay. So my email address will be fine. And Facebook, you can reach out to me on Facebook. Leonard Simmons Rogers. You should be able to find me there, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so I'll put the email in the description box. And are there any messages that you want to share, like any downloads or something that you took from the NDE experience that you feel that everyone should probably know?
I think we should think about what we think about. Basically, watch what you think. Watch what you think about others, and watch what you think about your own situation. And just basically try to stay positive, because it will influence your tomorrows. Trust me, it will influence your tomorrows. And I would tell everybody to read that book, The Diablo Prophecy. Very interesting reading. Very interesting reading.
Okay, I wanted to make sure you mentioned that. Okay, because you didn't mention it before, so I'm going to put that in the description box as well. Yes. You said heaven is real, and you said the portrait that the girl made of Jesus, right?
Yes, her name is Hakeem Kramaric. I think that's her name. Hakeem Kramaric. I know Kramaric is her last name. Amazing. It's amazing. When you see that picture, you're literally looking into the face of Jesus. Literally.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, we thank you so much for your courage, because it's still not easy to share an NDE in the world that we live in. And yet it's so helpful. And you're going to help people who are dealing with grief. You're going to help people who are trying to become more awakened and who are just curious about what happens. So we thank you. I send you love and light and awesomeness, and just bless you on the remainder of your beautiful, beautiful life story. Okay?
Thank you too. You're a very good host. You ever want me on again, feel free to have me on again. I'll be happy to join you.
Yes, and I'll put, I also send me the information about your book so we can see if we can get you a publisher. That would be awesome.
Yes, by all means, yes, I will definitely send you that information. We'll even try to see if I can send you little private PDF of it. So
Okay. I'll
so
take it.
you'll
I'll
get a
take it.
sneak preview of it.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Leonard. And we're gonna sign off here. But I send you blessed and so happy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good evening.
Enjoyed the visit.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.